Good evening and welcome to another edition of the EKU Alumni Spotlight Series. My name is Dan McBride and I will be your host tonight, and I'm very excited about tonight's show. We have a fascinating guest and you are going to learn a lot about fashion and Hollywood and some of the things that go on behind the scenes. But before we get to tonight's distinguished guest, I want to tell you a little bit about some things that are going to be coming up in the coming weeks here on from EKU Alumni Engagement. Our next Alumni Spotlight Series interview will take place on Tuesday, December 8th, when we will have Bill Bryant, who is a newscaster in Lexington, Kentucky at WKYT TV, one of the top newscasters in the area, has been in it for many, many years, one of the most respected newsmen in Kentucky. Bill Bryant will be our guest 7 p.m. on Tuesday, December 8th. And then the next night on Wednesday, December 9th, we have a brand new program for you. If you like cooking shows, you're going to love this. We have the debut of The Colonel's Kitchen, and it's a joint effort between EKU Alumni Engagement and the Department of Applied Human Sciences. And we are going to cook some of Kentucky's favorite recipes and some holiday treats and a lot of other things. That will be at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, December 9th. Be watching for some more materials coming forward in the coming weeks to tell you a little bit more about those programs. But the 8th, we will have Bill Bryant on the Alumni Spotlight Series. And then on the 9th, we will have The Colonel's Kitchen, the debut episode. We also have some great guests lined up for Alumni Spotlight Series in January and February. There'll be information coming on those shows in just a little bit. So stay tuned to watch your email and watch social media for some information on those. Tonight, we want to encourage you to get involved in the discussion with our guests. If you have questions that you'd like to ask, you will have the opportunity to do that. We're going to talk for a little bit with our guests, and then a little bit later in the show, we will have a question period where folks who are tuned in can have an opportunity to ask their questions. We're very excited tonight. 1979 graduate of Eastern Kentucky University, a member of the EKU Hall of Distinguished Alumni, and an Emmy-nominated costume designer in Hollywood, California. We are very pleased tonight to welcome Michelle Cole to the Alumni Spotlight Series. Michelle, welcome to the show and welcome back to Kentucky.
Hi, I'm so excited. This is so awesome. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here. And we can see by the sunlight behind you that it's still light in California where you are.
Yes, it's 5 o'clock. It's still a little bit lit out there, so it's nice. Mm-hmm.
And here in Kentucky where I am, the temperatures are dropping down into the 30s, but you guys are still having some nice weather, of course.
Oh yeah, it's 75. We're still wearing shorts here, so it was 75 today. Nice and warm. But since at nighttime it gets really cold in Los Angeles, but not 33 degrees at all. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know it's been a crazy time for you, and obviously. With the studios opening back up and you guys are back into production, it's kind of been a sprint here in the last few months. You guys in a rush to try to get things going and get the shows back on track.
Yes, it has been. We went down March 13th of this year. We got the news, and then all the studios shut down, and we started going. I think Blackish was one of the few shows that went back first. We went back first, probably the beginning of August, the end of July, the beginning of August, and then we did a dry run, which meant that we practiced before the actors came back, because we did how we shot, how we were doing it, how costumes, makeup, hair. So we practiced with everybody for about a week before the actors came in. So it was a little nerve wracking, because the studio's plan, I mean, their job is to keep us safe. So it was a little bit nerve wracking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I know you've been working on Blackish, but you also have kind of been working on a project with Kelly Ripa. Is that right?
Yes, we're doing a work wife. So we're just doing the pilot to that. And when we did go down March 13th, I was working on that pilot. So we went down and we have a lot of it prepped. And so we walk right back into it. We don't start shooting it until December, the early part of December. So it's our pilot. We can talk about it a little bit, but it's going to be a surprise. So, but it will be a great little project. Happy about it. Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be on ABC, correct?
Yeah, that's ABC. Yes, that is ABC too. So she will fly in, and think in a couple weeks for it. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about what life has been like for you guys since starting back up. Obviously, there's a lot of COVID restrictions and protocols in place for you guys every day when you get to work.
Yes, there are. We have to keep everything clean, simple. Our social distancing, and we're the costume department. So the costume department, we have to shop. So we're out there in the front line. So we're at, like I mentioned, stores from Target to Bloomingdale's to Macy's. We're everywhere. So we're touching places, and all of us are wearing our masks. And so that makes it a little nerve wracking. I have a crew that has their mothers. They're worried about their children, so, and we have very long hours. So it's keeping them, it's keeping them safe, and everything takes a little bit longer, because shopping isn't where you just go into the stores now. Now you have to wait out line. There's only so many people that can go into Saks. There's only so many people that can go to Neiman Marcus at a time. So your time now at the studios is longer. You just can't run in to a store and then run back out. It does take time now. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you guys shut down in March. What was it like for those months that you guys were shut down? That had to be very, very strange.
It was, and I think you didn't. I think probably like the whole world was. I mean, I think we were, shocked. I mean, what was going to happen? What was this about? I mean, I think we were all scared, and we were all nervous. And are we going to unemployment rate? I mean, the world just came tumbling down. So I think that I live in Pasadena, so I'm along the mountains, which is really nice. And so I'm a hiker. I'm a jogger and hiker. So I really went into doing a lot of hiking during that time, and you can hike alone, so that's a really good thing. So, but it was you couldn't see your family. I have nieces and nephew I'm really close with. So, and you learn how to Zoom. This is it. You learn how to Zoom. So, but it was, I think it was a lot of times, I think there were some good things about it, and we all stuck to the news as much as we did. We learned about certain things. We learned to care about certain people. We learned to reflect. I think a lot of things were going on that we were all doing. There were a lot of things were happening. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, I'll do this in a little bit of a weird order, but let's talk about your career after you left EKU. So you graduate from EKU. Where do you go next?
Well, when I left EKU, I got accepted into a program. It's called J.W. Robinson, which was a 5-star store here in downtown Los Angeles. And I was in the men's department, so I was a buyer. So I was a buyer. I loved it, had a great time. I loved men's attire. And on the weekends, I worked free because I majored in theater at EKU. So I would work free at a theater, and I loved it. And so the costume designer said, you got some talent. And I was like, okay. And so I would just sew and do that. And so that's how I got to Young and the Restless. Garland Riddle was the costume designer on Young and the Restless back in the early 80s. And so he brought me in. And so I started at very bottom. I started putting clothes away in the stock room and Miss Chancellor and all the old, and I thought I had made it because I remember writing all my college friends back at EKU going, I'm on Young and the Restless. And that was such a big deal to be on that show. So that's where I started my first show.
Now, I know you also worked on a lot of commercials, and you worked with the likes of Bob Hope, Michael Jordan, Whitney Houston, and David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, yes, we did. It was like, I mean, because 80s was when the commercials started happening, when VH1, MTV, all those. So we were, we thought I'm sure, I don't know how old you are, but we all thought we were so cool, to see all of this VH1 happening. But I was very blessed to have a great career. I started in that place. It was Whitney Houston, Michael Jordan. It was Cindy Crawford, Pepsi commercial. That's when commercials were just big, loaded with celebrities, So, and we got to travel all over. I was on the Nike campaign, and we got to travel all over the world with that campaign with Bo Diddley and Bo Jackson, and we had those. So it was great. And I think that part of my career taught me speed because you have to move really fast in commercials. And but there was a lot of celebrities that you worked with back in the heyday. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know in the 80s, when you were first breaking into the business, there weren't a lot of people of color who were working in the industry, but the ones of you who were, I think, were very supportive of each other.
Totally. I mean, there weren't many. I mean, when I told my dad we went to go see My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn. And so my dad, it's one thing my father and I love. We love to go see old movies together. So there's a lot of theater in Los Angeles that's all they do is old movies. And so when I came out, I said, Dad, I think I want to be a costume designer. Well, most of us, black girls didn't know what that was. How do you get started? And both of my parents were educators. So my dad went right into it. He said, let's start taking sewing classes. And we started doing all of that. So that's how I got started was having him help. He didn't sew, but it's like, but he encouraged that part of my career. Mm-hmm.
I know, obviously, a lot of people are very familiar with your work on In Living Color. I mean, that was a groundbreaking show in so many different ways.
It was. I mean, I was so fortunate. I mean, when I was doing commercials, people would see me out shopping, and there was a costume designer that knew the executive producer, and she goes, there's this little black girl that runs around town all the time. She's so busy. And I think she found my name. And so she gave my name to the executive producer of In Living Color. And that's how I got the interview. And that was with Fox. And that was my first union show, because we're all in a union. So that's how I got into Costume Designers Guild 892. So I was an assistant for 10 years. And then in 1990, I became a costume designer with the guild. So 40 years in this now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and In Living Color, the Fly Girls, of course, was yeah.
It was just incredible. I mean, it was an incredible. I mean, it's a dream come true. It really is. I mean, to have your first show and to be nominated 4 times, to have my crew nominated 4 times each year on it, and to have the stars that came out of that show, and to be an iconic show like that. It's. I mean, even every generation still watches it. Everybody still sees it, and whenever you say it, everybody's like, when I go to different colleges, they're like, they've seen it. So it's really Men On and all the sketches. And when I go through my renders and my drawings in my garage, I just kind of go, wow, I'm even blown away by it at times. Like, where did I get that idea? Because it was really long hours there.
One of the things about In Living Color, though, it was one of the first shows that had such a great amount of diversity on it. Yeah. I mean, it was groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking. It was white and black people. It was everybody was watching In Living Color. People, that's when you would rush home and I did Martin Lawrence right at that with that. And Shanae and doing all of those characters on that show. So everybody would run home just to see Sunday night on Fox, to see that lineup on Fox. So it was like Married with Children, We're all dating ourselves, by the way, right now. So
Yeah.
it was Married with Children, and then Herman's Head, and then I think it was Martin, and then Living Color, something like that. But it was, it was great. And Jennifer, when someone sent me a picture of Jennifer Lopez, I'm like, oh, she still looks great. She still looks amazing. And she was 18 years old. And the Fly Girls, Carrie is on. I saw her last year. Carrie's on Dance with the Stars. She's one of the judges. So to see everybody to do so well from the show, and even the writers became like how I'm now at Blackish, and I always say this, that in Living Color is my tree trunk. It comes from all of that show. Those writers became executive producers, so I went along with some of them. So to be at every show, from Bernie Mac to Living Color to all my shows, it all comes from In Living Color. So it's been an incredible career. It really has been.
Well, you mentioned Bernie Mac, Martin, you were South Central, the Steve Harvey show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a chance to work with a lot of great people.
I did. I was, like I said, I look back at my career, and I tell people I couldn't even dream this up. I mean, this is way beyond my dreams, and to be in the caliber of with costume designers in our guild. I mean, like Tom with Saturday Night Live, he's the costume designer for that, and to talk to him and to see him do how he made his suit in like 2 or 3 hours for Harris to wear when she got when they got select that night for the presidency. To be able to do that in 2 or 3 hours, you have to be another costume designer to understand like how fast that is. And that's how fast we work. When the news breaks, when you're doing In Living Color and you're doing Saturday Night Live, as soon as that news break, you're building. And that's what you have to stay on top of it. And that's what I thought Kenyon Ivory Waynes, our executive producer, did. He stayed on top of the news, and anything that broke, we were on top of it. So, yeah.
I've read where you have called it a little bit of a gypsy life in your business, because you just move from project to project to project.
Yes. And that's what we do. And I think that's the beauty of this job. I don't have a regular job. I don't go to work at 9. I don't go home. I don't get home at 5. And I think like I said earlier, I get up at 4:30. We get to work. Our actors are at work at 5:15. And my crew starts at 5:15 in the morning, and they sometimes will work until 8 and 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. So it's really a long haul for about 10 months that we work.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. We've talked about some of the shows you were on, and I know that you have talked a lot in the past about the difficulty in breaking into what I will call the white shows. That was kind of a challenge that you kind of took on, and you were determined to break yourself in.
I was. I mean, because I would always have people, and there was a lot. They didn't think I was suited for like some of the white shows, back, and I was on a lot of black shows when I first started. And so, and I just wanted to be a costume designer. I wanted to do all the shows. Why should I be a black costume designer that does black shows, So, and that was one of my things. And one of my producer, Michael Peacock, who also is on Blackish, we've known each other 30 years. And he had a project, and it was all white. It was with Diane Cannon, and it was an all white show. It was with NBC. It was my first major network show. And I came in and I said, how can I just blow this away? And so I did all my renderings. I knew my script. I did all the drawings, did everything. And I walked in and I just blew them away. And so, and I was up against some of my really great friends. I was up against some really talented costume designers, but I knew I had to come in and really just nail this one. And I was with these, and they're still good friends of mine, but I was with these executive producers for about 7 years. So I was very, very grateful for that I had two white executive producers that really believed in me, and they did not see color, so it was really cool. Mm-hmm.
Well, great work is great work. It doesn't matter. And I know another passion of yours is also to make sure that you can get young people who are starting in this industry into the union. That's kind of you've been driving behind.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, that's a legacy I kept when I first started. I would probably be the only black person, at the production meetings. I would be that only person, and so And, and it's a big, there's 150 people on your crew, on the crew. So it was very small of us. And so I felt that there was a lot of people that wanted to do this. And to this very day, I bring people in to, like, now we have PA programs, which is great. So we have from colleges, when I talk to different colleges, so a lot of the kids, a lot of the young people now come to Los Angeles or New York, and they're trying to break in. So there's now PA programs, so which is great. So that helps people to get into our union, which is really good. But that's one of the legacies that's one of the legacies I would love to leave behind, is to help as many people of color to get in, and also good people. The bottom line is, like you said, talented people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back now to EKU and your EKU days. Let's start with how you ended up at EKU, because I think your dad wanted you to stay in California and go to college, didn't he?
He did. He wanted me. Both my parents are from Kentucky, and then my parents went to USC. So they graduated from there, and they got married and they moved. They came to Los Angeles. So that's home. That's this is home. And so we would spend our summers and Christmases in Kentucky. So, I mean, that was home to us. Our grandparents were there and our families were there. So when I decided I wanted to go to college, I said, Dad, I think I want to go to Kentucky. He was like, no, we want you to go to USC. And I'm like, well, USC is right down the block. And it's like, and I was like, who wants to go to USC? And then especially to have your dad, I mean, like watching you two, and knowing where you are. And I was like, nah, I don't think this is going to be cool, So when I graduated, and then thank God my grandmother was 2 hours away. They were from Knox County, so 2 hours away. So if anything happened, I could always go home to my grandmother. And I got to have an amazing relationship with my grandmother, who I simply adore. She's gone now, but just had an amazing relationship with my grandmother. So that was totally worth it. And then to be at EKU in the 70s, and I got there in 1975, and Ohio players, and going to concerts in Cleveland Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. I mean, the EKU was, that's where it was. That's what was happening back then. So it was a lot of fun to be there. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you were very active when you were on campus. When we were talking before we went on the air, you were in the homecoming court and involved in a lot of different student organizations.
Yes, we had a lot of great times, and I still have friends there. We still talk. They're doctors and nurses, and so we still, we have, thank God for social media, so we're able to talk. But yes, made some great friends. I was in the textile classes. I don't know if they still have those classes, but I was in the textile classes, and I got an opportunity to come back a few years and also to do a speech or something at the home ec building. And that was a lot of fun. But, there's a lot of great memories there. I had a great time. It was a great school, and it had a purpose for me. And I'm really glad and excited that I graduated from that school.
And I know you also were involved in some of the theater productions when you were at EKU, kind of the kickoff to your career.
Yes, I had a really hard teacher. There, and I can't remember her name. And we would do theater, and to get everything, she was so precise. And I think to this day, I'm a little bit like her now, because she grew on me. So it's, she grew. My assistants hate it. I know they hate it, but she grew on me. And because when you did something, when you built a 18th century gown or something like that, she was very precise. And I think and when you're in home ec, you have the dolls, the draping classes, the tailoring classes, and you have all these great classes and all these great teachers. And so they challenge you. And that's what I do remember about being in these classes, that it wasn't like a fun, like you had this doll. It was a serious, like, you could go out and do theater. You could actually get a job to do theater. So there was teachers there that were very serious about their craft, and they made us serious about our craft too, I think. For me, it was. Mm-hmm.
And we talked about your last visit to campus has been a few years ago, but campus has changed a lot, but Clay Hall is still there.
Yes, that was my dorm. Had a lot of great times, a lot of great fun. Is it co-ed? Is it co-ed now? No.
Yes. All of the dorms are now co-ed.
Yeah, it was all girls. Yeah. So it was, and so being in the hallway and, and studying and having the flashlight and who was going to bed early, so there's all of that. So college life I can't wait to come back to see what it's like.
Now, getting back to your career a little bit, I know you've done a lot of work with Kenya Barris. That's kind of
Mhm.
been one of your partners. And I read a
Mhm.
quote where he said that you were a magic fashion elf.
Yeah. Yes, yes, on good days, yes. It's really great to have partnerships with your executive producers, and I've had some really great executive producers in my life. And I think the key for me, as a creative person, is that you have executive producers that allow you to bring something to the table. And I think, after 40 years of doing this, and having, like you having other designers supporting you, and you also have a guild that supports you, is that being able to use your voice, that you're able to create, and that you have someone that trusts you, that knows that you see the character. Because when you're doing these type of shows, people think, oh, you just throw clothes on them. You're talking this out. You're talking why this actress, why this character is doing this. And for them to listen to you and to respect you. And it's so wonderful to have where you're collaborating with your executive producer instead of like listening to them and them telling you what to do. You're doing it together. And that's what I love about collaborating. I love about this job is being able to do that. And I think that works for me, is that they leave me alone and let me just do my thing sometimes. And that's what I love about these producers that I work for. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier that both of your parents were educators. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that that's why education has been so important to you and part of your life.
Absolutely. It was. I think that my father was he was high school principal. So, and my mother was a kindergarten teacher. And I think that education, being Black, being from the South, being, Kentucky, my dad was number 10 he was number 10. He was the baby. And about five of the boys, my grandmother was very much into education, and five of the boys went to college. And so there was two girls, but five of them went to college and pursued and had great jobs and things. And two pastors in my family. So I think education was definitely very important in our family.
And I know your father was kind of the one who really supported you early on and encouraged you to pursue your dreams.
He did. I had great parents. I mean, they're a little nutty like everybody else's parents, but I had great parents and great, and great grandparents. And I think that the fact that my family is from Kentucky, there's also, the spiritual part of Kentucky, being brought up, and you're brought up in the church and you're brought up in that. And I think that had a big part of our lifestyle as well, being brought up with grandparents like that. So we were brought up with a lot of love, a lot of encouragement. We were brought up to give back. I think all of my family's involved in, I'm on board of directors at different charities. And so we were brought up to really give back. When you make it, you give back. And so that's a really big thing with us.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the things that's impressed me. I know that you do give back and you have scholarships not only at EKU, but
Mhm.
one at Berea College, one at
Mhm.
USC.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. We do.
and
Mhm.
often you speak to students. Did you not tell me, are you teaching a class at Emory University? Are you helping with a class at Emory?
Oh,
Did I dream
that's
that?
the one in SC, how do you SCAD? Is that it? Is that the
South
one?
Carolina Art and Design, South Carolina Art and
Yeah.
Design.
Yeah, in Savannah.
Savannah. Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Savannah
yes,
School of Art
yes.
and Design.
Yes, I've been
Yes.
there. I've talked to about 4 times, 3 or 4 times, and I love them. They're so great. I love that school. What a great school. So I went there with Yara right when a week before the pandemic, a week before we shut down. So I went there with Yara the end of February. But that's a
All
great
right.
school.
We have some questions from some of our viewers, and I want to get a chance. Here's a long one, so I'm going to read this one, Steve, and then you can start putting the other ones up. Jonathan Hibbard is a theater alumnus from EKU, and he's
Uh-huh.
currently head of the EKU costume shop. He's excited to have this opportunity to see you tonight. He wants to know, what was the theater department like when you were here? Who were some of your professors? Were you in APO? And would you, if you can find the time, like to work with them on a project or a production, whatever you could find in your heart to do? He says we'd be thrilled to have any input you could give to work with our students. So much appreciation. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, the name again was?
Jonathan Hibbard is his name.
Hi, Jonathan. I would love, I mean, I would love to close. I haven't done theater in a while. That's one thing somebody asked me the other day, what's the one thing you would love to do? And I go, oh God, theater. I would love to like close my career in theater. But that would be something definitely I would love to explore. College back in 1975 to 79. Oh my God, the theater department was so much fun. It was so happening. I mean, that's where I think the time was so happening, during the 70s. It was so different then. I don't remember. I have to look at my yearbook, and I don't remember my teachers. Unfortunately, I don't remember them. But if I saw their name, I'm like, yep, I remember. That was the tough one. But I learned I honestly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the theater classes that I had, and the art classes, the draping classes, the chemistry classes. I would not be here without that, without my family, without my grandmother's and her prayers, So to go back in that time, it was exciting. We were so busy. Everybody loved it. There was so much love in the department. So I hope that it's still like that. I hope that it is still like that. But to answer your question, I would love to explore that. A theater.
All right. Mm-hmm. Next question. Steve, do we have another one ready? This is where the production comes in. All right. Rodney Hovenkamp asked, what was your most challenging costume to design ever?
Well, we just finished doing on Blackish a wedding dress, and they switched up scripts on us, and so we had to get it done in 2 weeks. So that was really hard to do. And if you go online, you can see it. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful. My team and I did. I'm so proud of it. That was challenging when we did Prince. We were nominated for the Prince show, and that was our 100th show. We had all of that built. All of it was painted. We had to they copied the music and doing all the costumes. That was a lot of fun. That was, because we're all Prince. Yeah, there it is. We're all huge Prince fans. And so that was, and while you're doing that, you're singing along because we had his music on the whole time. So, but the cloud in the back was printed. There's another one that we hand printed. So we really took a great length to honor Prince when we did this project. Yeah, I'm proud of that one too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then In Living Color was that was not a cakewalk. In Living Color was constantly busy. There was men on. I mean, you had to get those things done in 5. It was fast. It was you had to be creative, you had to be on top of things, you had to be fast, and you had to think. And I think that's where I'm good at, is that for me, I like my first instinct. And so I trust that. If you give me too much time, then I don't trust myself. I start to doubt myself. So for me, my first instinct is the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think a lot of people do that. They start to second guess when they have time. Mm-hmm. Here's a question from Randy White. Did you come up with the Homie the Clown and Fire Marshal Bill? And if you did, where did you find those costumes?
We think that's a good question, Randy. We built all of that. So when our writers when they are talking, I go to their office. I sit down with the writers. We talk about it. And Homie the Clown we just designed it. We came up with the drawings. Keenan Ivory Waynes had a vision for it, because the executive producers usually have a vision. And we just came up with that, and it just was great. And then Fire Marshal, Kim getting burnt. I mean, Jim Carrey's just as crazy as he can be. And he's so creative. Jim is so creative and so passionate. So, actors have a vision and they talk to you about it. So you kind of work along with them as well. So yeah, those were two. We built all of that. Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. Next up, Kathy Corbin asked if you remember Dr. Dan Robinette, who was an EKU theater professor.
Probably do. She was. Yeah, probably do. I think so. Is she still around? Is she still around there?
It's gentleman Dan Robinette, and he taught in the theater department.
I don't remember a male teacher. I do not. That I don't. Mm-hmm.
Here's another question from Steve O. He'd love to know your favorite talents that you have worked with, directors, producers, actors. Who are some of your favorite folks?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would get in trouble if I would get in trouble, Steve, if I tell you who are my favorites like that. God, I have a lot of favorite directors, producers. I mean, that's a tough question because, if we were having dinner, I could probably tell you, but but I couldn't tell you now. What's my favorite project? Oh, that's Libby. um, Go ahead. I took your line.
No, that's okay. Yeah, you're good. Libby Rigorish Kinsel wants to know if you have a favorite project that you've worked on.
Oh, oh, favorite project. God, that's the one thing about being in entertainment is that you are a gypsy. You get to kind of have these lives and you get to work and you get to have all these different projects. My favorite projects, they're all so different, and Living Color is so different. It's a variety show. Blackish is such an iconic. I mean, I've been so fortunate from having like all these iconic, and people always say to me, do you ever look at a show and think you're going to win an Emmy? I go, no. I look at a show and think, okay, how can I be creative? I look at a show not to go, oh, is this like Emmy material? I don't look at it like that at all. I look at it like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can and that's Juneteenth right there. But I look at jobs. For me, it's creatively challenging for me. That's what I look for.
Juneteenth was another one of those kind of groundbreaking episodes. I mean, people still talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They aired that during the riot. I mean, during the protesting this year. So they aired it for Juneteenth this year. Yeah, that was kind of an emotional one for me. I get choked up every time. I can't even talk about it now, but I get a little choked up. We've been just seeing it because it's a huge part of our history, of Black history, and I think when you see that and when you studied it and when you had to do the research, and I love doing research, that's one of my favorite things. And I think EKU taught me it was something about doing all this research. So when you're doing the research on slavery and everything, so much pops up, so much history pops up. And it does. You see the lynching, you see part of history that is a very important part of our history. So when I look at that, I think of the music, and we had such a wonderful time doing this piece, and it was a wonderful piece of art for me, and it was my theater, and I felt like I was back in theater when I did this.
Let's talk a little bit about Blackish. I know it's the main thing you're working on right now, or one of your main projects right now, and I get the feeling that it's kind of something that's kind of gotten your juices going again and got you really excited again. It's one of those kind of shows.
Mm-hmm. No, I've enjoyed, and it was Larry Wilmore, who did In Living Color and who also was the creator for Bernie Mac, called me up and he said, I have a show for you. And I'm like, okay. And he says, it's a pilot. And it's the pilot. And I'm like, okay. And he says, it's Blackish. I go, Blackish? And I was like, and he's like, it's called Blackish. And I went, okay, Blackish, like that. And I came in to meet with Kenya Barris. And so, and the rest is history, but he had a vision, and it's great when, Kenya he's an innovator. I mean, he creates, he's pretty amazing, and he lets people do what they need to do. He trusts people to do their job, and to be a creator, I think that's a very important part of their job as an executive producer is allowing people to do what they do best. And so to be a part of this, and like I said, we had I didn't have any idea. I'm coming in to do a pilot and hoping to sell it, hopefully that they'll make it. And it did. And so really proud of it. And then there's Grownish, which is the daughter. I do that show as well. And then there's Mixish, which I only did the pilot to Mixish. So to be a part of this is pretty amazing.
You mentioned a minute ago that maybe finishing up with some theater would be really neat for you. Is there still one thing or one big accomplishment out there that you haven't done yet that you really would like to do?
I've done movies. I love movies, but I love television because it's fast. I love television. But But I think theater is like when I look at Hamilton, and I know the costume designer for that, when I look at that play and I just go, that's what I want. I just want to do one, and I just,
Yeah.
I mean, because, and when I go to New York, I go to New York a couple times a year. And when I do go to New York, I see the plays, and I take my niece who's 19 years old and my nephew who's 17. And we go to Broadway plays and we do the off Broadway. And that's something that you look at and you just like, how did they do this? How did you do that? How did you do this? And you know what it takes to do it. So I think that for me is still, there's not a lot of money in it. Everybody says, but it is it's the love of theater. And I think that's what it really boils down to. It's live performances.
You've been doing this a long time. Do you ever think about retirement, or are you going to just keep going and going and going?
I'll keep going. I have like I said earlier, my mentor, one of my mentors is Ann Roth, ROTH. She's a huge costume designer. I think she's like, I shouldn't say it, but I think she's about 88. She just finished a project, I think this year. She's one of my favorite. And I just look at her going, so freaking talented and just still got a vision and still just working. And Meryl Streep hires her and, she's still getting hired and just, I don't think I'm going to go 88. I don't think, because I do want to travel and I do want to, I want to get back to my life a little bit, but I don't know when. I think someone once said to me, "You'll know. You will know when you know." And I've heard that quite often. You'll know. So, but for right now, I'm having a great time.
What's the rest of the year look like for you? I know you guys, usually you're shut down during Thanksgiving week, but you guys are even working this week, right?
I'm working on the pilot. And then we're also doing To Tell the Truth. That's one of Anthony Anderson's show, To Tell the Truth. So we design all of his suits and his shirts. So we design for him. He gets ready for that. So I think we do it in 2 weekends, and then they'll probably air it in January, February. I think, I'm not quite sure. So we're pretty busy. We're pretty busy. And I think as of right now, Grownish is coming back. They'll start prepping in January and start shooting in January and February. So we haven't seen them. I haven't seen them almost over a year. So because of the pandemic. So yeah, so we haven't seen each other. So it'll be good to see them. And that's another great show for me is young people. I mean, just learning and to be able to have a show that is so driven by fashion and to be able to for me to do it and to have a great team of people to do it is just wonderful. I mean, it's like to see them wear all this great clothes to college that nobody wears. It's such a fantasy and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm really proud of it. And they have great actors as well.
You'll get some time off for Christmas, I hope, right?
We're 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Yeah. But you're still, it's still going here.
And you've already put your Christmas lights up.
Yes, I have. I put them up because we have to celebrate something. It's like I said, most people in Pasadena, I was driving around, everybody has their lights up. They're so ready. I think everybody's so ready for like some type of holiday, So I think we're ready here. Yeah, I think we're all ready for a change right now. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's Thanksgiving week, so I guess the question that everybody thinks about at Thanksgiving is the things they're thankful for. And as you look back on your career and your life, what are some things that you've been thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful to God first. I mean, there's no way I could ever do this career without Him. I mean, that is, and my family, I couldn't do this without them. So having the family, having great friends, and just thankful that everybody's healthy, everybody's good. And just, thankful for, even EKU, the history that I have with them and just watching that when I get cards from the college students talking about like, what you've done and just being able to help people, to be able, I didn't have children. And I always think that God has blessed me with this career. You have a nice income and that it's for me to be able to give it back and also to give it back to education I think that's what my dad would want. And he was very huge in that. So that's the reason why we're big into don't want to get sad here, but my brother at one point had a really rough time and he was homeless. And so we're very much, everybody we always say everybody always has that one in the family. So he really taught us what homelessness meant, what it means. So we have a real big heart for that area in our family. So yeah, but he's good now. So that's good. He's good now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're thankful for at EKU is that we have alums like you, Michelle, who give back, who have a passion for education, and who have such incredible talent and have done such amazing things with your career. And I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us tonight and talking about that career. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. And I hope everybody had a good time.
All right, good deal. And we hope you have a great Thanksgiving and a good Christmas too, Michelle. Thank you.
You too. And happy holidays to everybody. Mm-hmm.
All right, Michelle Cole, our guest tonight. Thank you so much, Michelle. She is a member of the EKU Hall of Distinguished Alumni and a 1979 graduate of EKU and a 7-time Emmy nominated costume designer in Hollywood. Want to remind you again, a couple of upcoming shows on December 8th. That is a Tuesday. Bill Bryant from WKYT TV in Lexington will be our guest, 7 o'clock that night here on the Alumni Spotlight. And then we will debut a new show on Wednesday, December 9th, The Colonel's Kitchen, a joint effort with Applied Human Sciences Department here on the EKU campus. That show will be at 8 o'clock coming up on December 9th. Again, we thank you for tuning in and watching with us tonight. Be sure to watch your emails, watch social media for information on more upcoming programs that'll be headed your way in the coming months. That'll do it for us tonight and for this week. We hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Be safe, enjoy your families, and go Big E.
Kiss your head and close your eyes. Sing your name with a shaky voice. Wish you were different, it ain't my choice. Sing your name to the silver sky. Kiss your head and close your eyes. Sing your name with a shaky voice. Wish you were different, it ain't my choice.